Hi everyone, Philippa Wiperbard here. We have a great story today involving what I believe to be the most common issue involving Filipinas who relocate to their husband's home country. The issue is how much money should a Filipina send to her family and when should a husband get involved? The issue of sending money to the Philippines is not really about money. It's a clash of cultures. The Philippine society is based on children financially supporting the parents and larger family unit, while the Western culture is usually focused on self sufficiency, where the parents typically support the children regardless of age. This story starts off as most do. Um, Professional American man in his mid 40s went online and met a sweet and innocent Filipina living in a province. The American was overwhelmed with the beauty of this Filipina, and the Filipina was amazed at her good fortune in meeting a young American man. They became an LDR couple, and the man visited her several times in the Philippines. He is kind, respectful, thoughtful, and he also met the entire family and courted the Filipina in an appropriate manner. The couple agreed to marry, and the man processed the Filipinas K1 visa. As part of the courtship, the Filipina explained to the American man that she currently helps her family financially and that if she moved to the United States, she'd like to continue helping her family. The man found this to be an admirable trait and agreed to provide a small allowance to her parents until the Filipina can work in the US. At that point, the Filipina agreed to pay for the allowance out of her salary. Fast forward a year, the Filipina moved to the United States. She got married and now had her green card. This allowed her to work in the US. During this first year, the kind American dutifully sent money each month to the Filipina's parents who had no problems. The Filipina and the American agreed that she'd work part time during the day while he was at work and she would be home in the evening so they'd be able to have dinner together. She'd also be home on a weekend so they could go on adventures when he was off work. The couple agreed that any money the Filipina made was her money and she could spend it any way she wanted, but she would now be responsible for sending the monthly allowance to her parents. The Filipina found a job at a local diner where she could work lunchtime during the week, and she left the house after her husband went to work and was home before he came home. This arrangement worked well for several months until the husband then started to notice a change in the Filipina's work schedule. At first, it was an additional evening shift during the week, which the Filipina justified as covering for a friend. Then it became working an evening shift every week and then several times a week with even weekends on occasion. When the husband confronted his wife about her working long hours, she told him she was sending money to the Philippines to buy properties for them to build a house when he retires and as an inheritance to their future children. While the man was unhappy having dinner alone, he admired her hard work and appreciated that she was trying to save for their future. Several months passed and the husband got an unwelcome surprise. He received a message from a person in the Philippines that he did not recognize. This person identified himself as someone who had made loans to his Filipina's mother, and that the Filipina's mother was late on repaying him. The man explained that the mother had assured him that her daughter would be sending money from America to repay him very soon. He also went on to say that he had tried to contact his wife and she had ignored his messages. This really confused the American. He thought it was strange that he was contacted and did not see how this loan was his responsibility. He also knew his wife had been sending money to her mother on a regular basis, and he wondered where the money went. The husband shared the message, of course, with his wife and asked her to explain it. It was at that moment that the Filipina started crying uncomfortably to the point where the Filipino could barely speak. The husband was a loving, albeit confused man and comforted his wife until she was calm enough to explain what happened. The Filipina told him that once she got her green card and started working, her mother started requesting additional funds. The Filipina explained that it started small: money for a fiesta, money for a school for her nieces, nephews, to repair the motorbike. The small request grew to much larger request. The next thing she knew, her mother was requesting money to pay for her utility bills. Then she started requesting money for her siblings' utility bills. The mother started giving and loaning money she sent on a regular basis to her extended family. The Filipina said she tried to explain to her mother that she didn't have the money to continue giving her. But her mother called her selfish and had her siblings send messages telling, you know, how horrible she is. The Filipina didn't know what to do. So she just kept trying to work more hours to make more money to try to help her family and avoid the criticism and gossip. Eventually, her mother's spending got out of control and she started borrowing money from various parties around, the barangay, with her mother telling the lenders that her daughter would pay the loans back. The Filipina didn't know what to do and just kept ignoring messages she was getting from the lenders. The husband asked, "What about the money you were saving for the properties?" The Filipino explained that she'd been unable to save anything due to her family's request. So the husband had gone from confused to angry and to disappointed. He couldn't believe that his sweet and caring Filipina could hide this from him. He couldn't understand what she had to gain by not telling him what was happening. What upset the husband even more was that he married this young woman for companionship and to be his partner. He did not marry her to move to the United States so she could work and send her paycheck to her mother. He was eating alone at home while his mother in law was enjoying the fruits of her daughter's labor. It seemed wrong to him on so many levels. This is a serious situation, but it was never marriage jeopardizing. The Filipina told her husband that she couldn't solve this problem on her own and she needed his help to get out of this. She told that she would do whatever, he thought best to get out of this mess as long as it didn't involve completely separating with her family or embarrassing her parents. Being the typical American man, the husband went into problem solving mode. He wanted to know how much money his mother in law owed and what's the minimum amount of allowance she needed to live a modest lifestyle. The husband then agreed to pay of all of her mother in law's debt, which was a modest amount to this man, but a big amount to the mother in law. The Filipino would pay him back through her paycheck a little each. The husband emphasized that from this day forward, the amount of money that would be sent to her mother would be fixed to allow her to maintain a modest lifestyle. And anything beyond that amount would need to be discussed with the husband prior to being sent. Finally, the husband requested that any excess money from the paycheck would go in savings account that both would have access to. That money would be used for property in the Philippines or for the family they hope to start in the future. The Filipino agreed to go back to working only the lunch, time hour and would eliminate the extra shifts from her schedule. Now, I know a lot of you out there thinking this man is a bit of a control freak, but that's not really how the couple viewed his actions. The wife had let it be known that her life would be so much easier if she could say that my husband won't let me send any more money than what I'm already doing. Blaming the husband for not sending more money is probably the most common tactic most Filipino use when dealing with this situation. It's not about control, it's about saying no while not losing face. So the wife told her mother she would pay off her debts, but would limit all future remittance to a fixed amount without exception. Her mother was very unhappy, cursed her, called her selfish, and told her she was a horrible daughter. She then had her siblings send similar messages. The Filipinos' response to everyone is that they have embarrassed her, created conflict in her marriage, and that these were the rules that her husband set moving forward. She had no choice in the matter, and they could accept it or she would block them all. Eventually, her mother and the rest of the family got used to the situation and all was forgiven on both sides. The husband is now supporting his wife, who is looking for properties, which is what she always wanted. The Filipino is now trying to be more open and honest with her husband when it comes to dealing with her family, even if it creates a bit of embarrassment on her part. This situation is shockingly common. Many mothers of Filipinos who go overseas, either as OFW or brides, often treat their children as their own personal piggy banks. This phenomena of Filipinos treating their children as a retirement plan is often related to the sudden influx of wealth in the family. This situation is worsened when the brides doesn't want to share what's really going on with their spouses because they don't want their family to look bad. This often creates problems when you're dealing with Western cultures where openness and transparency are highly valued. There's a saying in the US that goes, it's not the crime, it's a cover up that's the real problem. It's something that every new relationship will have to figure out if they're gonna be successful in the long run. Personally, my husband and I agreed to a fixed set of rules that dictate when we send money to the Philippines. If a request comes from outside the rules, I tell them that my husband will not allow me to send money at this time. But if it's inside the rules, then I have freedom to send whatever needs to be sent. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see a video on the remittance rules we created with my husband. And thank you again for watching today. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't done so. And I'll be back again in a few days with another interesting video. Bye.